is foolish. The 0.07 degrees Celsius increase in the average temperature over the last 100 years is entirely natural and within long-established norms. Politicians and activists claim that rising sea levels, and that's another thing, we've got to save the islands. Okay? Sea levels are rising and we've got to save the islands. Sea levels, okay, the rising sea levels are a direct result of global warming. But the seas have been rising since the end of the last ice age. Okay? So the ice age ends and sea levels have risen continuously since then. So to think that we're going to do something to stop something that's naturally occurring? The science of what determines Earth temperature is in fact far from settled. Okay? Especially a system so large and so complex as the Earth.
Substantive, and some of this is out and out craziness. And one of which is, first off, the scientists, and it is not a small thing, this is just one of many, many peer-reviewed publications, right? The IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. Okay? The scientists aren't paid. They volunteer their time to put forth their data to be examined by a panel of experts to be published through this journal. So the idea, the notion that they are somehow bribed or that this is some small, elite, crazy conspiracy is just factually inaccurate. So, you know, stick with history. Don't just blatantly lie to a student body. That's not appropriate. Honestly, I mean, that's just not appropriate. Okay? Now, in terms of other evidence that we can talk about here for climate change, it is phenomenally substantial. Okay? We can look at how much carbon dioxide we're putting into the atmosphere that is leading to warming. But also, I'd like to point out that Mr. Gutt is making a claim that is rather bold, right? That we are recovering from the Little Ice Age. That our climate is warming. So what is the driving force of that warming, Mr. Gutt? Because if it was the sun like any other natural thing, which by the way, you buy into the science that we used to prove that the sun was a driver of historical climate change. If we are using the sun, then how come the upper atmosphere is not warming at all? How come the stratosphere on up is showing no signs of warming? How come the only warming is taking place in the troposphere, where people are, where we're emitting our carbon dioxide? And how come, unlike any time in the past, carbon dioxide is spiking before the warming trend? How come the warming is taking place at such a rapid rate, much faster than we have ever seen in any historic time period? 12,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. There is no evidence to suggest that it is anything but anthropogenic climate change. That is caused by humans. The sun, Mr. Gutt. Right now, scientists are in consensus in thinking that it's approximately 0.001% of the warming that is taking place today, currently, in peer-reviewed journals. So keep this in mind. Listen to what Mr. Gutt has to say, but make sure you're listening to evidence, because evidence comes from peer-reviewed journals, and evidence is supporting anthropogenic climate change.
Who's a noted climatologist. He says, again, I would imagine that this climatologist's stuff is peer-reviewed. He says that there's no evidence in the climate record that indicates that increasing CO2 in the atmosphere has made any difference in temperature. In fact, in the last decade, there's been a cooling. Since the Little Ice Age ended, there's been a gradual trend in warming, okay, warming of 0.075 degrees Celsius. And he said that this trend is more pronounced in land, more so than oceans, and in the high latitudes.